This week on The Record, Madam Attorney General. Governor Mike Kehoe tapping Catherine Hanaway as the first woman ever to become Missouri's top cop, the lengthy to-do list she'll inherit, and why Andrew Bailey resigned. Democrats applaud the pick, what the GOP throwback means for the party's future. House Minority Leader Ashley Awney is on the record. And changing the channel, which streams of information are competing for your attention? It's all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. Missouri will soon have a new attorney general. Governor Mike Kehoe tapped Catherine Hanaway to take over the job as Andrew Bailey prepares to vacate it. Hanaway brings a polished resume. She's the former Speaker of the Missouri House, a former federal prosecutor, and she headed up one of America's largest law firms. More on her in just a moment. But first, a look at the record Andrew Bailey compiled. His short time as Missouri's attorney general was anything but quiet. He forced out St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, filing lawsuits until she resigned. He tried an emergency order to restrict gender transition medication for children and adults, pulling that back and then successfully defending the state's ban for minors. Bailey helped stall President Biden's student loan debt relief and joined the fight to block a new federal Title IX rule. He inherited a social media censorship case and pressed it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, only to be turned away. State courts ordered him to certify the abortion rights initiative that he tried to block. He sued Planned Parenthood over allegations of trafficking minors, fought innocence claims in 2 high-profile murder cases, and sought to oust the St. Louis sheriff. He even asked the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene in Donald Trump's criminal case in New York. Bailey departs to take a top job in the FBI, the 3rd consecutive Missouri Attorney General to jump from that post to higher office in D.C. He'll serve as co-deputy director of the FBI, sharing a role with Dan Bongino, the former Secret Service agent turned podcast host, whose clashes inside the Bureau, especially over the Jeffrey Epstein files, have raised eyebrows. Back in Jefferson City, a Bush-era Republican who came up under Kit Bond prepares to take over an office that has been increasingly thrust into the national spotlight, often around political culture war issues. So how will Catherine Hanaway lead the state's legal office? Will she continue, for example, the push to expel St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery?
Yes, I do intend to continue to pursue that. I think one of the really great achievements of Andrew Bailey as Attorney General has been to make sure that our public officials serve with integrity, and he's removed those who don't. And so I definitely will continue to pursue the case involving the sheriff.
We did not get immediate clarity from the St. Louis County resident as to whether she plans to continue the push to prosecute County Executive Sam Page. Hanaway will inherit far more than those political squabbles on her to-do list, though. She'll also get an ongoing case at the center of voters' rights and abortion rights, stemming from that Amendment 3 ballot question voters approved last fall. Ms. Hanaway, on September 8, you'll swear an oath to uphold the state constitution. Do you consider Amendment 3 a part of that state constitution?
It is currently a part of that state constitution. I know that there's ongoing litigation to clarify what exactly the amendment means. I think there's many unresolved issues, and the office has been pursuing that litigation, and I'll continue to do so.
A quick follow-up. Part of your record includes a 20-week abortion ban, which is more lenient than the current incumbent Attorney General would prefer. What should the people of Missouri know about your personal views on that issue and how it will affect the ongoing litigation?
Yeah, so I have a long history of being pro-life. I am pro-life. I, certainly have, like most women, or not most women, but many women, we had some infertility struggles. I'm empathetic to that, but I believe in the sanctity of human life.
Catherine Hanaway will not be able to touch one of Missouri's most heated cases, the Grain Belt Express. That's the high-voltage transmission line cutting through family farms. Bailey called the project, quote, nothing more than a government-sponsored land grab disguised as environmentalism. Hanaway's law firm previously represented that project for the clean energy power line, so she says she'll have to recuse herself once she enters government. For local landowners, that means the Attorney General's office will still fight those battles, but not under her personal direction. It raises questions about just how independent she can remain in cases with deep ties to powerful interests.
Our firm was retained to respond to a civil investigative demand from the AG's office on behalf of the Grain Belt Express. since I had that matter in private practice, when I switch over to the Attorney General's office, I'll have to recuse myself. But the team that is there, the great team that is there, will be able to go forward without my input. I won't be able to deal with that case, but there's a great team on it, and they can continue to do their work.
She did have significant statewide political ambition before, so what about the future? She laid down a marker. She said she plans to serve these next 3 years through the full remainder of the term, then run again for a full term in 28. For Missouri voters, that could mean stability in a job that has become a political springboard. Hanaway, her promise signals that she'll be here building her record, not bolting for Washington. It also sets up a campaign that could shape Missouri politics for years to come. In a surprising twist, Hanaway pointed to artificial intelligence as a priority for the Missouri Attorney General's office. She says AI can speed up routine legal work, but it also may pose risks, from scams that target seniors to abuses in the justice system. For viewers here at home, that means Missouri's top cop isn't just talking about crime in courts, but she's promising to modernize that office, perhaps guard against digital threats and bring state government into a more high-tech future. When we come back, the top Democrat in the Missouri House, why Ashley Awney is applauding the Republican governor's pick. House Democrats are weighing in on the big shakeup in Missouri politics this week. Andrew Bailey is out, tapped by President Trump to help run the FBI, and Governor Mike Kehoe choosing Catherine Hanaway as his replacement. Democratic House Minority Leader Ashley Awney called Hanaway a, quote, vast improvement over Bailey, but she also raised questions about which version of Hanaway Missouri might get in 2025. The respected House Speaker and U.S. Attorney, or the political fighter who once backed Eric Greitens during his impeachment fight. Joining us from Kansas City, Leader Awney is now on the record. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What specifically makes Catherine Hanaway more qualified or credible than Andrew Bailey?
You know, if we're just talking about credibility, I genuinely believe her track record shows that she conducts herself in a much more professional manner, and she doesn't have a history of playing into hyper-partisan politics the way Andrew Bailey did.
Hanaway said her top priority will be fighting violent crime. We often hear from Democrats it might be better to be smart on crime than tough on crime. How do you hope she balances those approaches?
You know, I think that there's always an important balance there, right? It's important to make sure that there are enough carrots and sticks within our justice system to incentivize folks to behave accordingly, right? And so hopefully, you know, she does take a balanced approach. Hopefully she does keep an eye on the things that we can be doing, specifically as a legislature to, you know, reduce crime in communities across the state. And she is able to work with us in that respect, so that we're not just focusing on bringing a hammer down on our blue cities.
Your statement was interesting. You said unless she proves you wrong, you believe Hanaway can restore integrity to the office. What would proving you wrong look like? What would make you say this is just Andrew Bailey 2.0?
You know, just really playing into partisan politics. I think that that's the trap that Andrew Bailey got stuck in. All he wanted was headlines, and it clearly didn't matter if his lawsuits were successful because he was constantly laughed out of court. It was embarrassing for Missouri on a national stage, and I'm very hopeful that Hanaway takes our AG's office in a different direction.
I wonder if you think Democrats' seat in Kansas City in Congress is now on the chopping block, and what are you prepared to do if Republicans do move forward with a map?
I absolutely do believe that the Congressional District 5 is going to be on the chopping block in a special session as soon as Kehoe calls it. And unfortunately, Democrats in Missouri don't have the same mechanisms that Democrats in Texas did. We can't leave the state to prevent a quorum. In fact, I keep telling people that I think that the Republican supermajority would prefer it. So our plan is to stay there, get loud, and make this as painful a process as possible for the Republicans, because they are steamrolling our democracy, and frankly, voters are terrified.
Would you like to see Governor Kehoe or Missouri adopt a Fair Maps Commission or an independent commission to draw the congressional map lines?
Absolutely. We have it for our state legislative maps, and I think we should have it on the congressional level as well. I think that every single state should have this. I hate that we're talking about making our red states redder and our blue states bluer. I don't think that's good for America. I don't think that's good for democracy, and I certainly don't think a 7-1 map is good for Missouri.
Republicans like Kit Bond would have expanded Medicaid, or like Jack Danforth would have fought for more consumer protections in the Attorney General's office. How will you know whether she's cut from their cloth or cut from this modern MAGA cloth?
You know, it really is about if she's more focused on headlines and ingratiating herself to the White House, or if she's actually cared about Missourians, if she's fighting to protect Missourians, whether that's through public safety or through consumer protections. That's where the real work is done, and that's what Missourians expect from their Attorney General.
She's the leader of Missouri House Democrats, Ashley Awney from Kansas City. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're back in just a moment. The midterm fight for control of Congress is off to something of a theatrical start. Missouri and Illinois already playing a lead role in the contest for the Speaker's gavel in D.C. Missouri Republicans are considering drawing a new gerrymandered map to try and eke out one more Republican seat in the House. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker hosted dozens of Texas House Democrats recently when they were holding out and blocking the GOP from drawing a new map for more partisan advantage there. Texas House Republicans eventually broke through that siege this week, muscling a new map through to the Senate, carving 5 new GOP-leaning districts into their congressional map. Could we really see that happen here?
I think our current speaker does a very good job of matching the values of Missourians. The process has to be, in my opinion, who represents Missouri's values the best, and what do we need to do to make sure that continues into the future.
So do you not think that a 6-2 map is representative of Missouri's values?
I think that Speaker Johnson is representative of Missouri values, and making sure he stays there. We've been obviously watching what Texas is doing. Other states are considering doing this as well, as you know. And I've said all along that it's interesting to me that the Democrats start talking about gerrymandering. When you look at the states they're in charge of, that is the definition of gerrymandering. I'm not sure how they could gerrymander those states more. They're pretty well tied up.
Governor Kehoe signaling he may be open to cracking open that Kansas City congressional district to try and give Republicans an advantage there. But let's check the record on his claim that the blue states represent the definition of gerrymandering. Certainly that's true over in Illinois, where the Princeton Gerrymandering Project gave the land of Lincoln an F on its redistricting report card. But that also happens to be true in Texas, where Republicans played hardball in maximizing their political value too. Makes you wonder just how many new seats they'll actually gain once voters show up to the polls. The nerds at Princeton ran the same test on the map makers in New York and California, those 2 blue states now ramping up to respond to Texas. Turns out New York got an A, California got a B, both scoring high on partisan fairness.
California and New York actually have fair maps and a commission to draw it. Would you bring that to Missouri?
I haven't contemplated that yet, Mark. I know that they do have a commission, but that's not something we've looked into, and I don't know if that might take a constitutional action in order to do that, would be my guess.
Just 2 days after Governor Kehoe said that, he hadn't decided on gerrymandering, President Trump posting on social media, quote, "The great state of Missouri is now in," Trump says. He says we're going to win the midterms in Missouri again for Republicans. He said it would be, quote, "bigger and better than ever before." A roadside billboard paid for by the Proud Boys stirred up parents and local officials in Breeze, Illinois. The far-right group is linked to that violence on January 6th we saw in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. The billboard sat on Old Highway 50, not far from Breeze Central High School. Parents were, of course, concerned it might be used to recruit kids there.
This isn't Republican, this isn't Democrat, this isn't independent. This should be one of the issues in our community that should bring everyone together. I'm all for the First Amendment, right? Free speech. I've heard that said time and time again, and I'm all for that. I've heard...
This isn't free, this is paid speech.
That's right, this is paid speech.
Cruz took that sign down Tuesday. We've since reached out to Lamar Advertising about whether its internal policies reject messages from extremist groups or whether the recruiting banner violated its content standards. We still haven't heard back from them yet.
When it comes to the word genocide, I kind of disagree with it because the bottom line is, can I finish? Can I finish?
So look inside Congressman Wesley Bell's Tuesday night town hall where tensions ran hot while Bell planned to talk about a variety of issues. People showed up and singled out one of them, the war in Gaza. At times, shouting overshadowed the congressman, questioning his support from the pro-Israeli group AIPAC. Bell could barely get a word in at times, but when he could, he called for an end to that war and for the hostages to be released. We check the record when we come back. It's good to be back with you on the record after a brief summer break. I'm learning life can change in a hurry. That's one reason we watch the news after all, isn't it? To stay up with all the moving parts. We don't want events to pass us by, yet the current seems to be moving faster these days. Disruptive technologies like AI are introducing a lot of uncertainty into the labor force and into our information streams. Just earlier this month, I was assigned to cover a story along the banks of the Mississippi River. The story itself was a tragic one, but it also required me to spend a lot of time near the shoreline. That mighty current was quiet but powerful. It reminded me of a bit of advice I got once. You never step in the same river twice. Change is inevitable, but change invites us to be grateful for what we've known and curious for what we're about to learn. That image of machinery harnessing or harassing a wild current stuck with me. I couldn't help but think of another great artery, the so-called information superhighway. Its unseen engineers control gates, channels, and flow of our speech online. Their clever machines carry the words. They learn what you like to hear and what you hate to hear. They give you more of the first and less of the second. You think you've found truth, but it's only your own echo. We've entered a moment when the debate over speech and reach is no longer theoretical. The largest platforms in history can now reduce a voice's reach without silencing it outright. The digital equivalent of diverting part of the river into a side canal. You can speak all you want. The current simply carries fewer people past your words. Some in Silicon Valley argue this arrangement is progress. It's efficient, they tell us. It spares us all the debris and clutter. Yet beneath that comfort is a pattern of change in ourselves. These aren't abstract fears, but declines we can measure. So let's check the record. Since 2014, conscientiousness among young adults is down 40%. Perseverance is failing. Distractibility rising. Neuroticism is at its highest level in the study's history. These aren't just quirks of character. They're the habits of mind that sustain a free society. A public that cannot follow through, that startles easily, that hesitates to venture beyond its curated feed, that's a public more easily managed and perhaps more comfortable being managed. The absence of visible censorship doesn't mean the absence of control. The danger is not that the machines will lie to us. Men have always lied. The danger is that the machines will tell us only the truths we wish to hear until we forget other truths exist too. Then the net will not need to be pulled tight. We will have swam into it ourselves. Technology isn't the enemy here. The printing press was itself a machine. So was the radio transmitter. But neither presumed to decide, based on our past preferences, which words we should hear next. Neither rewarded us for choosing the easiest content over the most demanding. Neither trained us to accept convenience in exchange for curiosity. If these tools are to remain our servants and not our overseers, we'll need more than user agreements and optimistic press releases. We'll need transparency from those who design the algorithms that set our course. We'll need public spaces, both physical and digital, where disagreement is not filtered out in the name of engagement. And we'll need to remember the value of discomfort, because comfort has a way of dulling the reflex to resist. Those statistics are warning lights on the dashboard. They don't tell us to abandon technology, but they may tell us to steer it differently. A society that prizes speed and ease over depth and endurance will one day find it has little of either. The channel is still under construction. Whether it becomes the architecture of our consent or simply a useful tool we control will depend on our determination to carve out new channels. History shows us every new medium is greeted with hope and fear. Edward Murrow once confessed, "I am seized with an abiding fear regarding what these two instruments are doing to our society, our culture, and our heritage." He was talking about radio and TV. Today, we might talk the same about social media and AI. The tools are different, the fear familiar. He also left us with one reminder: our history will be what we make it. These currents will keep moving. We can't stop them now, but we can decide whether they will carry us where we intend to go. That's it for us this week. Until next time, we're off the record.